Oh look, another Porsche Resto Mod 964. Yay. Except this one is by the leader in the game, Singer, and it looks like this.
That is what a $1.6 million Porsche 964 911 looks like, and that's for one, not both. We're here at Singer's UK facility where they make the DLS and the DLS Turbo to look at some of Singer's processes and figure out some of the details of the new car with the help of this man.
Hi, I'm Rob Dickinson, and these are our babies.
So this is essentially a very pretty 911, which is called, for very boring legal reasons, a Porsche 911 Carrera Coupe Reimagined by Singer. So this is a 964, which has been taken by Singer, stripped back to bare atoms and then rebuilt, which is so far so Singer. But the trick with this car is that it also has a turbo wide body that you can have with or without the wing, and it's got a 4-litre, 414 brake horsepower flat 6 engine in the back that is naturally aspirated. It's also got a 6-speed manual gearbox and rear wheel drive only. Hello. Tell me about why you chose this particular kind of car. Where's the inspiration from? Because it comes from a special edition Porsche, right?
It does. Like everything we do, Tom, we're trying to celebrate what Porsche did. And in the early 80s, you could order your new Porsche 911 with the pumped up muscular bodywork of a turbo, but with Porsche's latest normally aspirated engine. And that was a gift to us because we wanted to develop a new Metzger normally aspirated engine, and it was the obvious vessel to present that idea as a normally aspirated celebration of the G model. So that's where the idea came from. But Porsche called it the turbo look, the super sport, the M491 option. Right. It was quite a nerdy little option, but I remember it vividly from the 80s myself, and it was like, God, this is a gift. We've got this fabulous turbo muscular bodywork, but let's reimagine it a little bit front and rear and insert our best ever normally aspirated engine in the back.
So essentially there was like a GT3 touring analogue, even back in the day? Kind of.
Wide muscular thing. You could order the car with or without a wing, so it could be very kind of stealthy, so wingless or with the full turbo wings. And we're offering the same thing with this idea as well. Just something that tips its hat to what Porsche did, but kind of yanked forward a few decades, and with all the benefits of all the stuff that we've learned.
So you've got your age-appropriate 964, but you need to make it a bit less 1980s. So obviously, if you're Singer, you get in touch with Red Bull Advanced Technologies to get it straight and extra strong. But what exactly does that mean?
Okay, so this has got a bit of involvement from Red Bull Advanced Technologies, but what the hell did they do?
They're very clever, those guys. We asked them to help us with our turbo cabriolet.
Yeah.
And we asked them to stiffen the cabriolet to be as stiff as the coupe, and they went, yeah, we can do that. And they put their big helmets on and their big brains and their computers, and they came out with these fabulously gorgeous carbon fiber stiffening sections that we bond to the chassis underneath the cabriolets. And hallelujah, the car is torsionally as stiff as a coupe. So when we came to do this, our Carrera Coupe homage, it was like, well, any 911 chassis should be as stiff as possible. We obviously went back to Red Bull and asked them, can you help us with this? So they're throwing the book at this with chassis stiffening. And we're also using some extremely groovy new dampers. We're trying to make the structure as rock solid as possible, so these fabulous dampers can work as well as possible.
But with 11 billion people doing resto mod Porsche 964s, Singer has to stay ahead of the game, and it does that by having this kind of impactful, restrained subtlety. It's about the relationship between the 18-inch retro wheels, the tyre and the wheel arch, the movement across, the big turbo pumped up haunches, the way the wing mirrors look subtly different, all of this stuff with the front bumper, seeing a little bit of the tyre, the different headlights. This thing's got something, but it's hard to define. It's also got pop-up driving lights, which are pure genius. But what else has Singer done to make this car attractive to people who don't necessarily look at Porsche 964s? Even if I don't know it's a Singer, how do you do that? What is it that makes a Singer look when it's a Porsche 911? How do I know?
For me, stylistically and design-wise, it's all about how the car sits on the road. It's a relationship of the tyres to the wheels, and the tyres and wheels to the bodywork. And I call that, like everybody else, stance. The car has a handsome, righteous stance and looks like it was born on the wheels that you've given it. You are a long way towards success. We start with the right wheel, and then we find the perfect tire to fit on the right width of that wheel, and that gives us just a little bit of tension on the sidewall, and then we start positioning that next to this quite big volume here, and we have to have selected the right tire with the right amount of sidewall and the right amount of tension on it to support this. I mean, it sounds like a science. It's not. It's just me knowing when I feel something is right. We want to see enough tire at the front. We're not too obsessed with ultimate aerodynamics, so we can take a few artistic liberties with exposing a little bit of tire tread at the front, which gives the car this incredible planted stance. And I think the car feels confident. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard, but it feels like it's capable of doing anything you need it to do. And I think this is perhaps one of the things that makes perhaps our cars special.
So yes, the cost price includes the front bumper and rear wing to go from touring to track spec, plus a spare set of wheels and tyres all wrapped up in these colour-coded boxes. Though you have to spec that half cage as a permanent feature from the beginning. And once you've decided on the physical attributes, you can essentially go mental. In its restoration workout, Singer offers any colour, including tinted exposed carbon, any interior, any combination. These cars are DLS and DLS turbos made here in the UK base, but the 100 Carrera Coupes will be engineered here and then assembled in the US facility. And yet it can get pretty wild when rich people are involved. Some are more agreeable than others. But you can't have all the Instagram muscles without a measure of strength. And some of Porsche's most iconic moments have come with 4-litre naturally aspirated flat sixes, so this one's got one, but it's a bit special. Developed in conjunction with Cosworth, it's got a 4-valve head like a DLS, but it has variable valve timing, water-cooled cylinder heads and air-cooled cylinders. That's 414 brake horsepower flowing through a titanium exhaust with an 8,000 RPM redline, which might not be the most power in the world, but the idea here is about character rather than paper stats.
So, 4-litre, naturally aspirated engine, but it's got some tricks. What are they?
A lot of tricks, a lot of new learning, 15 years of us messing around with these engines. As you can imagine, we've learned a lot. We know who the best people to talk to help us are. We went to Cosworth to help us with this engine. We wanted a lot of horsepower, and crucially, we wanted a lot of torque with this engine. We've spent the last 2 or 3 years being obsessed with turbocharging, both for our classic turbo models and the DLS turbo that we have here. And we were missing a new normally aspirated engine, crucially based upon the 964 Metzger case that comes out of every 964 we start with. So that is the basis of this engine, but we wanted more power, and crucially we wanted more drivability in the mid-range. We wanted a lot of punchy torque, which makes the car feel very fast on the road. Exactly. More of that. And how do we get that? And so getting power from a 3.6 litre generation late 90s 911 engine means spinning the engine to high revs. That's good for getting power. It's also good for creating a lot of heat. What we wanted to do was manage the heat as well as possible so we could get the power, but also the torque. How did we get the torque? Through variable valve timing. First time this ever happened on a air-cooled Porsche 911 engine. How are we cooling the engine? We're helping the engine being cooled by water-cooled 4-valve heads. We learned a lot about 4-valve heads from our DLS program.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting thing when it comes to thermal containment. Do I sound like an engineer?
That's a big word.
Controlling the heat in these engines is a big deal. So we wanted to take the engine fan off the engine and control it with an electric motor and reposition it, which allows us to put the fan on top of the cylinders where they can be cooled rather more effectively than at the front.
But that seems eminently sensible, so why hasn't that happened before?
It's a good question, and I can't answer that question, and I can't believe we were the first people to think about it. Of course, a horizontal fan has been used by Porsche many times before on their racing engines. We've actually used it
they're on the top.
on the top, on our DLS turbo engine. Due to the necessity for our plenums, we had limited room to play, but we could bring the fan on top of the engine, this is about 35 degrees, and cool what is the 6 cylinders doing this far more democratically than we did at the front.
Just cool in the front too, and then everything gets the pass through it.
Exactly.
So what does this feel like? Do you think this feels like an old naturally aspirated engine, or do you think it feels like something more modern?
I think it's a good balance of the two. We're both familiar with modern GT3s, which have this very, very punchy mid-range. This is going to have more mid-range torque of any normally aspirated air-cooled engine we've ever done. Crucially, we also asked Cosworth to give us that level of performance with all of the emissions equipment attached.
So that's all for everything?
For every market in the world, this engine performs absolutely brilliantly in being clean for the regulatory necessities of countries like Australia and Germany and California.
And you're hitting the highest levels
we're hitting these high performance targets with all of this stuff attached. Usually to get those kind of heady performance power figures from an air-cooled Porsche 911 engine, you cannot put cats on it, you cannot put this stuff. It has to be a super high revving, a thinly disguised racing engine, kind of. This has the best of both worlds. This has a huge amount of high revving capability, also with strong management of the emissions, which is pretty hard to do.
But you know what? It always feels better when you get inside, because a Porsche that's been singerized always feels like it's had a chunk of love thrown at the interior. The ergonomics are still pretty much the same as a 911 of this generation, which means that they're very comfortable. Your feet are in the right places, the steering wheel is in the right place. But look at this, the use of Corduroy, the way the leather all smells completely perfect, the little tiered boot on the gear selector, the fact the gear selector's got an exposed linkage, it's got that kind of vibe that makes you want to drive. It feels very focused, but then it's not got a hyperscreen. There's not 300 shades of ambient lighting. Less is indeed more in here. This feels like a classic, but it's also got 4-way adjustable dampers. It's got 5 drive modes. It's even got a nose lift. So all of the things that you expect in a modern car are present and correct, but they're all kind of behind really lovely tactile clicky dials. It's got no touchscreen, and it is the better for it. You can feel where this stuff is in the dark. And then these classic Porsche 5 dials, everything is handmade. So these dials are handmade, they're hand painted. Everything is absolutely perfect, but it's clear and it's not gilded. This doesn't feel like a crazy interior. Even when you open the door and you see all this kind of pink cord and pink leather, it doesn't feel gauche. It doesn't feel bad. It feels like it should have been here in the first place, just a little bit elevated. So one of my favourite things about any 911 that you've got your hands on has always been the interiors. But you show admirable restraint. How do you not just chuck more stuff at it? How do you edit?
Less is more. I think it's about material choice for us. We had the pleasure and honour of working with Hermes recently on a customer's car, and we learnt a lot about leather working and the incredible artisanal skills that goes into the way Hermes wrap objects in leather. And we learnt some solutions to how the edges of leather can be treated.
So that's this, right?
That's
this burnished edge.
That's a burnished edge. We fell in love with this, and we thought it would become it could become a fabulous kind of signifier for our Carrera Coupe, which is something that adds a little bit of I don't know, quiet luxury, dare I say it, and that's kind of
I love it when you talk to it.
that's kind of inspired quite a lot of the car.
So this is 2 pieces of leather.
That's 2 pieces of it.
Traditionally would have an open seam.
Exactly.
And then you basically sand it down and paint it.
You know more about this than I do.
It's incredible.
And it has this wonderful painted edge, which is a true union of 2 pieces of leather coming together. So we've used it in various interesting areas of the interior, in a very kind of not look at me kind of way, and you kind of notice it when you touch it and your hand falls upon it and it feels lovely. We're using some muted colours that we haven't used before.
But you've still got your jewellery.
Yeah.
You got your bits of architecture in terms of seeing the gear change.
Yeah.
You've still got the jewellery in terms of the 5 dials.
Yeah.
You've still got that seating position, that ergonomic kind of.
Everything is super familiar. There's nothing here that we haven't seen before, but it's been touched with a huge amount of artisanal skill, and I think a little bit of understatement, dare I say it, which goes a long way in something that's so familiar. We've all seen the interiors of these air-cooled 911s so many times. To treat them with some gorgeous surfacing and some real love in terms of how parts come together, how they're finished when they come together, is something that fascinates us. And we're really proud of this. Actually, it's come together really nicely. The color mix is lovely. And it just feels fresh, but it's incredibly traditional as well. I mean, there's work. We're using Corduroy for the first time with
love Corduroy
with glee, and it's come together really nicely. No big screens, no shouting at you to look at this or to look at that. We've spent a lot of time on the way, an effort in how things feel. That gear change feels as good as it looks. The way the column stalks work is really nice, based upon some tricks that we've put inside. It's just got to feel nice, and it's got to feel like just proper and effortless.
When I first drove a Porsche 911 that had been modified by Singer back in 2014, there wasn't the mythology around what a Singer was. So you'd walk past one on the street and you'd think, that's a really nice 911, but it didn't strike you out of the blue. It wasn't an outrageous car. And since then, Singer has almost become a verb. Like, to Singerize something would be to improve it and elevate it with relentless application of attention to detail. It's become this amazing thing. And there's so many people now modifying Porsches that it's going to get to the point where the only real unicorn of a 964 is going to be a completely untouched one. But I think this car manages to go back to what Singer does best, which is not the relentless application of attention to detail, but the relentless application of restraint. They could be flashy, they could be crazy, but I think these are subtle and actually quite beautiful. So go on then, who's it for? Who do you imagine wants a car like this? Who have you designed it for?
Oh, designed it for us. Singer exists to satisfy the deep desires of me and Maz, my business partner, and what we want in our driveway. And this is what we want, and I'm pretty sure we hope other people will want it as well. We cannot work by committee. We cannot work by second guessing as to what the people want next. And luckily, Tom, we don't have to worry about what we're going to do next. There is a list of 6 or 7 things that are coming down the tubes that we want so badly on our driveway, and I will move hell and high water to make them happen. This is what this is about. This is envisioning what we want and trying to make it happen so we can at least have access to these cars, even if we perhaps can't afford them. Someone's going to lend me one of these, and that's what I want. So that's why this car exists. I want to be able to have two types of bodywork to stick on the car. I want it to be discreet and sexy and non-sporty, and then I want to take it to the track and put that stuff on. This is why the stuff exists, not because we think people might want it, although we hope that they do.
You know those future plans? Should we just go and have a quick chat? Okay, so that's the download on the Singerized Porsche 911 Carrera Coupe. But is the Resto Mod 911 game a little bit saturated these days, or does this car still have a place? Let me know in the comments.